Many thanks for speaking to us on TRT World, Mr. Spencer. So, 1 year on from Charlottesville, what has changed, if anything?
If anything, tensions are worse than they were a year ago. There's so much animosity in our town, but at the same time, there are a lot of people trying very hard to make it better. Whether that's successful, I can't say. I attended a church service this morning with the Reverend Al Sharpton, who blamed the American president for making tensions worse, but at the same time, he expressed optimism in bringing people together.
What about the alternative right group? The fact that people died at their rally, do you think it caused a fracture in that group, or do you think it strengthened it?
It absolutely caused a fracture. It was one of the many things that fractured that movement. They had been operating in chat rooms such as Discord and 4chan, and the Charlottesville rally was their big opportunity to really come out of the cyber world and join real life. And it backfired spectacularly for them with infighting among various factions and finger pointing, blaming, and of course they've been deplatformed by so many of the important social media networks, including Twitter and Facebook, and then when they try to raise money, they find that they are denied the opportunity to use payment services. So their cause has really been marginalized in the year since August 12th.
You obviously, you've written a book about that summer and generally about racism in US society. Tell us a bit more about your findings about race in the US.
Well, I'm far from an expert on race, but what I can tell you is that Charlottesville has a very long and complicated history with race. It goes back to the way this land was settled by the white settlers. They were given tracts of land by the King of England in the 16 and 1700s. And then, of course, we all know the awful history of slavery. And so much of it took place right here in Albemarle County, where Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, was a very large slaveholder. And even as he was talking about concepts of liberty for all people, he held hundreds of humans in bondage. And he knew it was wrong. It wasn't that it was something not discussed back then. It was very much discussed. He had a neighbor and a very good friend who freed all of his slaves. He received a bequest from a Polish general with the explicit push to use the money to free Jefferson's slaves, and Jefferson would not do it. He freed very few slaves after his death, and they all were essentially in the Hemmings family, and some of his slaves ended up being sold off. Families ended up being split up due to his failures to lead in that area.
Very interesting talking to you, Hawes Spencer, who wrote the book Summer of Hate about what happened in Charlottesville last year. Thank you for talking to us.